Good evening. Tonight's show contains coarse language, graphic depictions of simulated violence, references to the supernatural, terrible booking, devil worship, and grown men eating worms. It may cause offense to some wrestling sensibilities and may not be suitable for mature audiences.
Yes, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Wrestling Roadshow podcast. Here we are joining you for a very special edition here on as we are recording Halloween night. Ooh,
Ooh, I'm getting tingles.
ooh, is that the Halloween, or are you just excited to be back on the Roadshow?
Well, yeah. Well, we did have that short break, and of course, we did do a podcast, a bit of a return show. But yeah, maybe still a little tingly. We're still getting back into the groove.
And I'm not really one for celebrating holidays, but Halloween I just find it's really the only holiday that's just about having fun. So I don't really have anything against that.
I think it's a holiday that suits wrestling fans. There is a bit of that that crossover, as I'm sure we'll get into very shortly. But yeah, it's not a bad holiday to celebrate. Well, I don't, but I don't want anyone knocking on my door. But
Yes, so as alluded to in the intro, we're going to be taking a look at some pretty strange stuff. Now, wrestling has had a number of, I guess, strange gimmicks over the years, being that it's sort of a legitimate sport at one point that's deviated from that point quite a bit in favor of entertainment and theatrics. Yeah, there's been quite a few different flavors of theatrics put in. So we're going to be taking a look at 5 different acts, I guess you could say, gimmicks, angles, 5 different segments, I guess, that really captures something of the Halloween spirit.
yeah, you could say it's going to be a Halloween havoc
Ooh.
of
Can we say that?
discussion. Oh, that's right. They just brought that back, haven't they?
Yeah,
WWE are doing a Halloween Havoc pay-per-view.
Yeah, I think I saw something about that very briefly.
Yeah, I think was it Bron Breaker? I think that's his name. Challenging the NXT title
Oh,
on that
really?
pay-per-view.
I didn't see that
I
much
believe
about it.
so. But yeah, they've delved into the archive of what they purchased back in 2001, and they're bringing back an old WCW pay-per-view, which is one of the topics that I'm sure we'll get into later.
I suppose, yeah, they've already taken Great American Bash and Starcade.
Yeah, and I've always thought that Halloween Havoc was a really great name for a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So it's about time they dragged it out.
It is one of the better ones. I don't know how they'll go with Bash at the Beach, given AEW have actually used it, so they may not
Have they?
have the copyright on it.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
Yes, but yeah, WWE. Well, actually, I guess none of them have appeared at a Halloween Havoc. The first acts we're going to look at are part of WWE's history, quite a major part. It's often said that wrestling's something of a soap opera, and yeah, this long running angle is one of the best arguments for that. So we'll start, of course, with possibly the most famous supernatural wrestler.
Papa
The
Shango.
No,
Oh,
he's probably second. The Undertaker.
Bong.
So,
Gee, we're coming out with a heavy hitter right from the start.
yeah. Well, I guess, yeah, we got to start somewhere. May as well start at the top and work our way down.
Work our way down. Yes. Yeah, that joke will work when you get to the end of the podcast. You'll see where we're going.
So yeah, Undertaker debuted at Survivor Series 1991. Was brought in by Brother Love.
Um, well, I mean that's what the mythology suggests, that's when the Undertaker debuted. He'd actually appeared on television prior to Survivor Series, or it may have been a non-televised thing, because he originally debuted as Kane the Undertaker, and then they shortened it for Survivor Series. But anyway, go on. Sorry.
There we go. Well done. Calling me out on being wrong.
Oh, I've got the notes out. This back of an envelope.
I'm sure some people have been waiting 15 episodes for me to get caught up
Well,
like that.
Well, I wasn't going to say anything, but then after you made such a big deal about the Luna thing, and it was
Most things.
the first WWF video game female character, and not the overall character in any wrestling game. So it was about time you slipped up.
No, I appreciate being called out on that. So, so yeah, he didn't hang around with Brother Love too long. He brought in Paul Bearer, one of the more creative names, I guess. And Bearer carried a mysterious urn, which was sort of something of a key to the Undertaker's strength. Your sort of control aspect as well.
Yeah, the whole deal with Undertaker with with Brother Love. I can't imagine the Undertaker having the longevity that he did had he have kept Brother Love as his manager, as opposed to Paul Bearer. I think Paul Bearer really added so much to that character and the background and the story.
Yeah, I think Brother Love was more so just a case of, I have a guy here, whereas Paul Bearer was part of the whole mythology. So yeah, it added depth.
And it helped that he was he actually worked in the funeral business. Or am I skipping ahead on your notes there?
No. No, I'd sort of heard that, but wasn't sure how legitimate it was.
Yeah, apparently he really did work in a mortuary.
That was on his days off from being Percy Pringle.
That's right. And so when they first spoke to him, when he first came on board, and they actually saw that on his resume, and they kind of laughed, and he was kind of like, "Oh, okay, what's going on here?" And they're like, "Oh my God, this is perfect." Not Kurt Hennig, but you know what I mean. And so it just seemed like a great fit. It's just the timing was so brilliant on it, that they were about to debut this Undertaker character, and then they get a guy that's a manager and has worked in the funeral business. So
yeah, with the dye job in the hair, the makeup, and the suit, he just looked perfect and completed the act as well.
Yeah, because I didn't see his work as Percy Pringle until years later, when he was managing in World Class. He managed Rick Rude, and he was a good manager there. But it was kind of like a Jim Cornette type gimmick, where he was like the rich kid, and now he gets to play wrestling and all that sort of thing. So I'm kind of curious for people that were familiar with him as Percy Pringle first, and then saw him as Paul Bearer in the WWF. I'm sure it was a bit of a culture shock to them.
Yeah, it's funny, as Paul Bearer, as a manager, he didn't really do a great deal as far as like typical wrestling managers at ringside. Yet he's considered one of the best in WWE. And I suppose that's probably more so to what he added outside of the ring in terms of promos and angles.
Yeah, well, I think he was just such an interesting presence. like you said, with the makeup and the black hair, it looked like something out of the Addams Family. And
The voice
especially
didn't
with the
hurt either.
especially with the urn, I think the urn added a lot to it, and just his mannerisms and his facial expressions, and the voice that he had when he would cut the promos and everything. Yeah, I think he added a whole lot to it. I think he's very deserving of being ranked as one of the the great managers in the history of the company.
Yes, yeah. So like, I I don't disagree, but just in terms of, I guess he was a non-typical manager, is sort of what I'm getting at.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard the stories of different wrestlers saying when the Undertaker first debuted, they didn't think it was going to work because he was like the first wrestler where they actually had like a makeup, thing for him, and I'm sure a lot of the boys were kind of like, yeah. I mean, it was a very different type of thing. And it's not to say that there hasn't been like creature feature type characters before, but I don't know. I mean, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed his work as Paul Bearer. So I thought he added a lot to the story of the Undertaker, and then later on. So
Yeah, well, I guess the thing with Undertaker is he was presented seriously the whole time, and he pretty much, I guess, lived the gimmick in a way. Not so much that he was working as a funeral guy, but he wasn't publicly breaking character except for very rare occasions until recently. So while it was a ridiculous concept, he played it so straight that you couldn't help but appreciate it.
yeah, I do know. Yeah, I get where you're coming from. I mean, it wasn't like just like a throwaway, let's give someone a weird gimmick kind of thing. Like and I think you had to be. I've always thought like you had to be extremely tough to be able to pull off a character like that because he was supposed to. I mean, the initial incarnation of the character was he felt nothing. He felt no pain. So to wrestle all these matches, taking all these bumps, and not register anything, I think you got to be very mentally and physically tough to be able to do that character. He just had that sort of aura about him that on paper it sounds really silly. An undead zombie type wrestler. But I mean, as far as makeup, I mean, it wasn't like they went completely overboard with it. They made the face pale and probably, with the dark circles under the eyes or whatever, or purple around the eyes and that sort of thing. It wasn't like, completely over the top.
Like an eyeball hanging out or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I think it all came together. But having said that, I don't think there's really anyone else that could have pulled off that character than
No.
Mark Calloway. And as you said, also with the kayfabe thing, and that's why I think it's and something that, as you said, he's only just started doing now, and it's probably a relief to him now. After all these years, he can finally be himself and do all these interviews and all that sort of thing. But he really played that up to the hilt. So it's not like in today's wrestling where someone would debut that character and then they jump on Twitter and post all this silly shit about behind the scenes and all that kind of crap.
Yeah.
It's good to have that mystique about it.
Or feud with the guy, and then as soon as he finished, go on his podcast.
Yeah. What a great match we had. Yeah. That was so. Oh, yeah. That was awesome. Yeah. Fuck you.
So Undertaker disappeared, ending his first run after losing a casket match, one of his trademarks, to Yokozuna. Then Ted DiBiase brought in fake Undertaker,
Yes.
played by his cousin, Brian
I believe
Lee.
so. Yeah. Yeah, it was a nice little sort of throwback to Survivor Series because Undertaker was Ted's mystery partner.
That's right. Yeah.
So it was a nice little sort of thing that they came back to that, now, Ted DiBiase's brought back the Undertaker but then hang on, no, that's not quite right. And led to, unfortunately, one of the worst main events. Actually, no, was it the main event of SummerSlam? I'm not sure if it was the main event, but it was definitely one of the featured matches. Like that's what all the posters and everything, kind of made a big thing about. Oh, the battle of the two Undertakers.
Yeah, it was one of the build mains, but yeah, whether
Yeah.
it won last or not. And of course, if you check out our SummerSlam sausage sizzle, we discussed that match a little bit in there.
Geez, I thought you're all right there, and you had a pimple on your tongue saying that.
Every word's got a bloody S in it.
Oh my goodness. Yeah,
So
but definitely check that out.
So eventually, Paul Bearer betrayed the Undertaker and joined Mankind.
Yeah. Yeah, and sorry, were you gonna
go on?
Point? I was just gonna say, it's often you often hear people say when someone's really over, they can kind of do no wrong. I mean, well, they can, but they're going to stay over. Once you're over, you're over. Apparently, that's the phrase.
Steve Austin's probably the best example of that I can think of.
And I think
the in 2001, I think.
Yeah, and I think the Undertaker's also a good example of that, because he kind of went through that phase in the 90s, like getting into the mid 90s where, like we just said about the Undertaker match, and he was wrestling people like Mabel and King Kong Bundy and and Giant Gonzalez. That was another one. He went through this era where he was having these really difficult opponents or matches that didn't really mean a whole lot. And then we get to Mankind, and I think that really put a lot of energy back into the Undertaker. Like, after that string of having these kind of nothing matches and nothing feuds, I think Mankind really added a lot of longevity, because it was really the first time when you felt like the Undertaker was really in danger.
Which is funny because Mankind was like probably the guy who could take the best beating as well.
Yeah, well, and that helped. Yeah, definitely. But like even when the Undertaker wrestled Hogan for the WWF title, I think people probably thought, hey, there's a chance here that he may be able to actually beat Hulk Hogan. But yeah, like all the stuff Mankind did, and especially when Paul Bearer jumped ship, I think that just really added a great element of danger. It made the Undertaker more human, because I think at some point the character had to evolve a little bit. So yeah, I think a lot of the Undertaker's longevity, you kind of have to trace back to the feud with Mankind.
And I guess the constant evolution too contributed greatly into why it lasted so long.
Yeah, for sure.
Like even the Undertaker of '95, between the fake one and this, was different to the Undertaker of 1992.
Yeah, it was a constantly evolving gimmick.
Yeah,
and that's what added so much to it, I think.
So yeah, the Bearer turn joining Mankind, I guess on paper it seemed a bit strange. Why would he turn? But then it sort of makes sense when he tries to rejoin the Undertaker and then blackmails him using Undertaker's deepest, darkest secret.
Dun dun dun.
Here's where the soap opera kicks in.
Yes.
So Paul Bearer claimed that the Undertaker burnt down the family funeral home and killed his parents and brother Kane. Undertaker denied it, as one would. Then later, Paul Bearer claimed that Kane was alive and in an institution wanting revenge. Undertaker said Kane lit the fire. and he was a pyromaniac. So, Days of Our Lives continues as Paul Bearer reveals that he was actually Kane's father.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it just goes back to that whole thing about once you're over, you're over. Like, on paper, that just sounds like complete hogwash, but it worked. I love Kane. The original version of Kane was just awesome.
The big red
And
machine.
yeah, but I mean, like, when they really played up to the whole thing, like he was really burnt, so he had like the full bodysuit and the leather mask, and which they then completely forgot about later on.
Well, they explained it.
Oh, well,
We'll get there.
a bit flimsy, but yeah. I mean, like Glenn Jacobs. I mean, he'd had a run of bad luck in the WWF. Like, he'd been Jerry Lawler's evil dentist. He'd been the fake Diesel, and I'm pretty sure if Kane didn't work out, he was probably going to get fired. So it was a great debut of the character when he comes out and he rips the cage off the Hell in a Cell, and
The commentary as well. That's gotta be Kane.
yeah, I love it. Yeah, I love Vince going off his nut, and just with everything being red, and it was just different. It was something unique, and the way the Undertaker looked, I think that meant a lot too. The way the Undertaker's face was just like, you could tell, like, oh boy. So people knew straight away that, okay, this is definitely it, and then yeah, Kane lays waste to him. Yeah, pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah, if you've been watching a guy kick ass for like 6 years and then he looks scared, shit's about to go down.
Yeah.
So yeah, they'd be at each other on and off over the years. Eventually teamed up as the Brothers of Destruction to great success as one of the more overrated teams in WWE history.
Overrated?
Yeah, I think so.
Not a fan.
Angle was great, but as a tag team, they had a...
I've lost you.
You there?
Yep. Yeah, I think you dropped out.
Okay. So yeah, overrated. So yeah, they had a run of a couple of months. I mean, the angle was good, but yeah, people are carrying on as if they were in the same league as the Road Warriors, the Heart Foundation. Nah, settle down.
Yeah, I think it's more of the thing of putting two big single stars together as a tag team.
Like, it was cool.
That's kind of like saying like the Mega Powers are the great, one of the great WWF tag teams.
Yeah. Like, it's a cool angle and it's a cool thing to see, but they're not world's greatest tag team level of tag team.
Yeah.
So Paul Bearer eventually faded into the background. Undertaker sort of started riding a motorbike. Evolution.
As you do.
Made his entrances a lot quicker.
Well, yeah, that's true.
So yeah, come 2003, Kane unmasks and had no scars.
Yeah.
So he'd been covered head to toe in a mask and bodysuit. Slowly started revealing more skin on the suit. Ripped the mask off, and no scars anywhere. But they explained it as being mental trauma.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay.
So yeah, it's
right. Get your hand.
At least they had an explanation.
Well, yeah, that's better than what they normally do now. At least there was a flimsy attempt at an explanation.
Yeah. And at least he sort of played up on that that mental trauma sort of thing when he, like, straight after unmasking, set Jim Ross on fire and then hooked up a battery to Shane McMahon's nuts, and it was a wild time.
I've forgotten about that. Yeah, I wasn't so much into the supernatural aspects of it.
None of
Um,
those weren't supernatural.
well, maybe not the car battery to Shane's privates, but when he was saying, "Oh, I can send thunderbolts and pyros would go off and people would be set on fire and all that kind of shit." Yeah, I mean those aspects of it, I was a little bit, yeah. But the general storyline and the characters, I thought were pretty decent.
And of course, something I've glossed over here, I'd actually forgotten about it. It's
Don't
not
you
in my
forget anything.
notes. No, this is probably better left forgotten. Yeah, the whole Katie Vick angle. That was part of Kane's history, but yeah, that was that terrible booking we're talking about in the intro.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I think about it. I mean, obviously the implication was, what's the word for it? You know what the word is? Necrophilia.
Necrophilia.
Sorry, yeah, I kind of lost the plot there a little bit. I just took it as Triple H being a dick, like going back to these the DX days, where he's like in this ridiculous looking Kane mask, like the ones they sell at the bloody souvenir stand, and getting into a coffin with an obvious mannequin. I don't know. I don't know if they meant to imply necrophilia.
Oh, you reckon? Maybe.
I think
yeah,
it was just I just took it as Triple H being a dickhead, and just making light of some sort of trauma that happened in his life. I mean, how could he have been there when Katie Vick was lying in a coffin? Like, I mean, because that was supposed to have happened when they were in high school or something.
Yeah, well, yeah, I get it.
Like years ago, when long before Kane became the big red machine or whatever. So
he wouldn't have had the mask on. Oh,
well,
he might
no,
have
well,
if he had the burn.
he might have.
The
He
mental
might have.
trauma.
Yeah.
Fucking trauma, all right. Jeez.
Yeah, he's had a lot happen to him.
I mean, he would have had access to funeral homes given his dearest old daddy.
Yeah, so
that's I can't remember the exact point of where they were going to go with it, but I read a while ago the name was actually intentional. The last name of Vic to go with Scott Vic. That ring a bell?
Okay, yeah. Oh, the Sick Boy.
Sick Boy, yeah.
Yeah, Sick Boy from WCW. Yeah, okay.
He was signed at one point, but
yeah,
I guess one of the great mysteries.
Yeah, I think he just got signed to developmental, and then nothing happened for him.
Yeah, so I think there was going to be something with him, given that they used the name. But yeah, that's enough.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So Undertaker and Vince McMahon had a Buried Alive match because it's WWE in the mid 2000s, and that's what they book.
Yep.
So Kane buried the Undertaker, and then at WrestleMania 20, about 5 months later, Undertaker came back in the old style Deadman character. So he sold his bike, bought a new hat, and beat Kane.
There you go. And did you have anything down there about the Kane versus Kane storyline?
Oh,
when they had Luke Gallows.
No, I
up?
didn't.
I didn't see much of that, and I'm probably thankful for that.
Yeah, that's right. So at one point, they were having Kane had an obsession with the date May 19.
Yeah.
And that kept getting mentioned, and he kept freaking out. Turned out that was the day that the See No Evil movie released that he was in.
That's sneaky.
Maybe he thought it was so shit he didn't want it to come out. I haven't seen it, but I've read the book and it's not bad.
He saw the premiere and he thought, I hope the general public don't get to see this.
Yeah, May 19. Jesus, no, don't put it out.
No, I haven't seen the movie either. So I can't.
But yeah, that as you mentioned, that turned into Kane and Fake Kane, and Yeah, I don't remember much of it, but yeah, it was Le Gallows as the fake Kane.
Yeah. Obviously, they thought the Undertaker versus Undertaker worked so well that we should have Kane versus Kane.
Yeah,
And yeah, I don't think it lasted very
no.
long.
So then over on SmackDown, Kane was on Raw at this point, because well, brand split. Undertaker was feuding with Paul Heyman and the Dudley Boys, and they threatened to encase Paul Bearer in concrete if Undertaker lost a match against the Dudleys. So Taker won, did it himself, and killed Paul Bearer,
As you do.
thus killing the character off.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Kane continued on as a mid to upper mid card act for a number of years. Got written off TV at one point, then came back with a mask on. Looked like he'd learned to trade and picked up welding. Yeah, then Kane alternated between masked and unmasked on and off for some time, and then later was elected mayor of Knox County, Tennessee.
There you go.
And Undertaker retired just recently, finally. And will probably go down as the greatest WWE wrestler of all time.
Yeah. Well, definitely the best character they ever had.
Yeah.
But
So, yeah,
I think did he show up in Saudi Arabia? The Undertaker?
yeah, he had a match with Goldberg that won the Observer's Worst Match of the Year award.
But I thought there was there one that just happened recently, and he come out and he did something. He may not have wrestled.
There was one that just happened.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he's on it. I saw they did it, and I was like, that's bad.
I think for some reason he brought someone out, like some band or something. He was like the hype man for this band. And I think that
How do the
did
Saudis feel about Metallica?
Yeah. I don't think it was Metallica, but yeah. Anyway,
Not mentioned on the Wikipedia.
that's all right.
You got me curious now.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure I didn't dream this. Sometimes I dream of weird stuff. Like the other night, I dreamt that I ended up at Scott Steiner's house, and Virgil was there, and I was trapped and I couldn't get out. So I could very well have imagined this.
What did you sit on to watch TV? A Steiner recliner?
Oh, I could. It's very possible. Very, very possible. And then, yeah, I woke up, so thank God for that.
And nothing on Wikipedia about Saudi Arabia.
Well, maybe they haven't written it yet.
Maybe not. Anyway, yeah. So that's the Undertaker, Kane, and Paul Bearer, one of WWE's, I guess, more famous angles and long-running stories. So, moving on.
Yes. Yeah, I actually caught up with Mad Max.
How's he going?
Yeah, he's going all right. He's a bit old. But Mad Max, obviously a movie that is ingrained in pop culture, and professional wrestling has also borrowed quite a bit from the Mad Max franchise. So it was, of course, the film that started Mel Gibson's career off. I believe he was 23 and coming out of film school when he did the first Mad Max film, which I believe was in the late 70s. But Mad Max 2, which came out in 1981, and that's the film that kind of the first Mad Max film did very well in Australia. Mad Max 2 did very well in Australia, but it did break into the American market as well. They actually call it the Road Warrior in America. And I'm watching these movies, and I already had an idea about, the Road Warriors. They Hawk and Animal. They talked about that's where they got the idea for the name and the look and all that sort of thing. But it was interesting the number of references from the Mad Max films that have then been borrowed, stolen, ripped off from professional wrestling. So in Mad Max 2, or the Road Warrior, whatever you want to call it, the main villain in that film was the Humongous, or he's also referred to as Lord Humongous, depending on who you're talking to. And he was a big, tall bodybuilder type guy. He was actually played by a guy named, and I'm going to mess this up, I'm sure, but he was played by a Swedish bodybuilder named Kjell Nilsson. And I apologize if I've totally screwed that up. But he was this big, massive dude, and he had a hockey mask, and he led like this, this rogue crew. Now, that particular gimmick has been used on a number of occasions, particularly in Memphis, which should come as no surprise. Memphis is... They've been known to have a gimmick or two in that territory. So Lord Humongous was at one time... Well, the most famous example of a wrestler playing that role was Sid Udy, who would go on to become a big name in the business. But it was also played by several others. There was another guy, Jeff Van Camp. He was another good example. And when they do wrestling conventions and stuff like that, he still comes out as Lord Humongous. There's been several people that have played the role as well. But here's one thing I didn't know. So when the Humongous first appears in Mad Max 2, he's introduced by this guy called the Toady, because he's this real sycophantic character. Oh, look at, behold the Lord, and all this crap. He's kind of like the town crier kind of thing. And part of his introduction for Lord Humongous, he calls him the Warrior of the Wasteland and the Ayatollah of Rock and Roller.
Ah.
So all these years, I thought Chris Jericho come up with that, but that's where he got the line from.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either until I watched it recently. But yeah, and also like with the S&M gear that a lot of the bikers wear, where they actually went into an an S&M store and just bought...
SMS store. You got to send a message to get in.
Yeah, that's right. That made up all the uniforms. Of course, you see it in teams like Demolition. They're obviously very influenced by the post-apocalyptic dystopian wasteland movies. But WCW also took notice of Mad Max. So 1989, which was the year of the first Halloween Havoc pay-per-view, they had Sting and Ric Flair teaming up against Terry Funk and the Great Muta. And they're not just going to be in a steel cage, Mr. Chrisman. Oh, no. It's going to be in the Thunderdome.
That's right, yeah.
Yes. That was from the third Mad Max film, Beyond Thunderdome, which starred the lovely Tina Turner.
Simply the best.
It was simply the best. And, so you get the Thunderdome cage match. But here's another thing I didn't know. So there's a scene in that film, Beyond Thunderdome, where Max is fighting this guy called Blaster. And he's a big, big guy with all this, armor and a helmet and all this sort of thing. And he was the muscle behind another character called Master, who was this tiny little dwarf guy. And it's the Master that came up with the concept of how to power the town of Bartertown, where they have the Thunderdome and all. It's actually run off methane. They've got like a big pig farm underground, and that's what generates the power for this city. And Tina Turner's character doesn't like that they've got all this control and they feel like it's their town and she's not in charge or anything. So she wants Max to take out Blaster so that they can get to Master. So anyway, they have this fight, and Max knocks off Blaster's helmet and sees that he's actually he's actually like a Down syndrome guy, very simple. And so Max doesn't want to kill him. So they say, okay, well, now we're going to punish you. And how we're going to punish you is you're going to have to spin the wheel. Does that ring a bell?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Halloween Havoc 92, Sting versus Jake the Snake Roberts, Sting again. Jake says he has to spin the wheel, make the deal. So in the movie, they spin this wheel to decide what Max's punishment's going to be. And, well, it actually lands on Gulag, which is a Russian labor camp. But it's actually what they do with him. They just send him out in the desert, tied up on a horse. So they actually exiled him. But yeah, anyway, they don't know Russian. But yeah, so once you deep dive into this, you come across a lot of shit.
I'm just thinking, Master, Blaster,
Yep.
WCW.
Yep,
Probably
that's another
no
one.
coincidence.
Yep, that's another one. Kevin Nash and Al Green, I believe it was. The Master Blasters.
The singer.
No. The wrestler, you sausage. But yeah, you could really deep dive into this. But I think that's enough. I think that's enough. One podcast.
Oh, we're not going to mention Mad Maxine? Another one from the movie?
Well, shit, there you go. There you go. Why didn't I not think of that? Yeah, Mad Maxine. That's another one.
There's also, I think, Beastie the Road Warrior or something like that I've seen pop up in, I'm going to say, Wing or FMW in the early 90s.
I'm sure there's examples all across the wrestling
there'd be heaps of them,
spectrum.
yeah.
Just to show how deeply like Mad Max has sort of gotten into pop culture. Mad Maxine. Well, there's actually in Beyond Thunderdome there is like these Amazon-looking women that are like well over 6 feet tall with the big mohawks and that. It could it may very well have been Mad Maxine. But yeah. So
it's a similar look that she used to that.
Extremely similar. Yeah. So there you go.
So there we go. Yeah, geez, I learned a lot from that.
Oh, well, I might even do a write-up for the website.
Yeah, I'm glad I got you to do that one because
I kind of figured when you weren't jumping in, I figured, okay, maybe I've got to carry the ball on this subject. So, but yeah, I'm
very, very educational there.
Oh, well, thank you.
And yeah, so let's move beyond the Thunderdome.
Okay.
And we're going to take a look at, I guess, one of the more... Yeah, we'll take a look at one of the acts from the Attitude Era. And they weren't really too big at the time, but they do seem to be remembered quite fondly. Very unique. So, I was playing SmackDown 2 earlier in the week, and I noticed in the splash screens with the credits and whatnot, Gangrel was a trademark of White Wolf Publishing.
Yes.
And I thought, we're doing a podcast in a couple of days. This is coincidental timing.
Ooh.
We're gonna have a bit of a look into this.
Yeah. And what did you uncover?
So Gangrel, the character, is actually taken from a tabletop RPG game called
That's right.
Vampire: The Masquerade.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, which makes sense as to why I guess he's gone back to using Vampire Warrior
Yeah.
where he can.
Yeah.
Yes, so the Brood was Gangrel, Edge, and Christian. And of course, Gangrel was the Vampire Warrior prior to this. Before that, he was part of the Black Hearts as Apocalypse with Tom Nash, who was Destruction. The team split up. Gangrel started dating Luna. We covered this last week in the podcast. And they pulled the Vampire Warrior gimmick from the movie The Lost Boys.
Hmm.
So then we go to WWF. Edge debuted as sort of a loner. Interesting entrance video because it pretty much showed him like going to an ATM and then running around the streets with weird lighting. It's like, okay, that's what a loner does. Then a little bit later, his kayfabe brother Christian debuted,
Yes.
who would win the WWF light heavyweight title from obscurity. Um, yeah, so he teamed with Gangrel, then was going up against Edge. Then they convinced Edge to join and started calling themselves the Brood.
Mm.
They sort of presented as a clan of vampires that wasn't ever referred to directly by the announcers. They were just a couple of guys who lived a gothic lifestyle, or whatever that
Yeah.
means.
As you
Sitting
do.
around listening to The Cure, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
So one of the reasons they're pretty fondly remembered is they had a pretty cool entrance for the time. They'd rise up through a platform in the stage. Gangrel would drink blood and then spray it. And then they'd also, at times, do the bloodbath drops from the ceiling, which is something that Vampiro was doing in WCW around the same time. I
Was
think
it around the same time?
The Brood did it first, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was within 12 to 18 months.
Yeah.
Probably a Russo idea on both sides.
I would say so. Yeah.
So they started feuding with Undertaker's Ministry of Darkness, which somehow we didn't cover. Then they joined it as sort of, I guess, fall guys, henchmen, low tier, sort of cannon fodder.
Yeah.
Undertaker tried to get him to sacrifice Christian, but Edge and Gangrel were loyal to Christian, then turned on the group. They started feuding with the Hardy Boys, which would go on for a little while. Edge, Christian, Hardy's one of the more famous WWE feuds, career rivals, really. Gangrel turned on Edge, then tried to convince Christian to do it, but he stuck with his good old brother.
Yeah.
Gangrel joined the Hardys and formed the New Brood. So then you had a match, the Hardys, Matt and Jeff, against Edge and Christian. The winning team got the services of Terry Runnels as a manager. So the Hardys won the match. Gangrel was carrying on the Hardys were too busy recovering, Gangrel was utilizing Terry's services.
Ooh.
At this point, the teams sort of called a ceasefire on their feud, and then they all just beat the piss out of Gangrel. That ended him. So the Hardys sort of retained the elements of the darker gothic look that they took on at this point. And you'll see, I mean, yeah, they're dressed strangely a lot of the time, but yeah, that's where a lot of the darkness come from rather than the bright colors they had at different points. You look at them at like Mania 2000, and yeah, they were still dressed pretty dark. Edge and Christian dropped the darkness completely and just turned into complete goofs, and were extremely ridiculous, but it worked really well for them.
Yeah. Yeah, I really liked Gangrel, and you know the entrance was really unique, like you said, and they come up from the stage, the ring of fire goes around, and they just step over the fire, and they come down. The music as well, like
Oh, the music was cool.
the Brood music is like one of my favorite wrestling themes. And yeah, just the whole thing they did, yeah, it was really cool, and suited the Attitude Era well, I thought.
Yeah, yeah. And speaking of the Brood music, Edge brought it back in August this year, 2021, for his feud with Seth Rollins, which seemed to pop Twitter quite well.
Yeah, because I thought there was something where AEW were going to bring in David Heath for something.
Yeah, he cameoed in one of the weird Matt Hardy cinematic matches.
Okay. Yeah, and apparently that was it was just one of those real coincidence things. And Edge just kind of felt bad that he kind of overshadowed him a bit with doing the music and stuff. But
that was last year, I think, or early this year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The timing wouldn't have matched up.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever.
But
I'm wrong. That's all right. All good.
We all get to have a turn.
Yeah, we all get to correct each other at some point.
So yeah, from one of the more fondly remembered gimmicks to, well, actually, this guy is remembered pretty fondly by people who don't know any better. For people who started watching wrestling at a certain point, this character is one of the, I guess, more sentimental favorites that people have just based on the gimmick. But for anyone who had sort of watched any prior era, and I don't want to necessarily speak for everybody, but yeah, this was a bit. How you going?
He was kind of interesting to look at.
Yeah.
For the short term, but not someone you particularly want to hang around all that long. But
so we are talking about the Boogeyman.
The Boogeyman.
And he's coming to get you.
He's coming to get you, all right? You to change the channel.
So Martin Wright was a finalist for Tough Enough in 2004 until he was disqualified for lying about his age. He was
because he was an older dude, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was 40. The cutoff for the competition was 35.
Oh well, what's 10 years?
5 years.
No.
But they signed him up. They signed him up anyway to OVW.
Stop interrupting me when I'm interrupting you.
So I guess like the age probably wasn't that big of a deal. He lied about it and they signed him anyway. But Batista was another one who debuted at around about 40 odd. He was an older one. So him being so successful might have helped Boogie's case here.
Yeah, it could have, yeah. I guess Batista kind of had a better. Well, I don't think he gives a lot of credit to OVW, but I guess he was, getting trained up for the debut in WWE. Whereas, did Boogeyman have any prior wrestling experience, or he was just
I don't believe so.
Okay.
So the story here was at the time WWE had a network executive by the name of Palmer Cannon on the show, this show being SmackDown, which was on UPN, I think, at the time. So in the angle, there was a planned TV show called The Boogeyman that got cancelled before it actually started airing, but the network still had the actor under contract. So Palmer Cannon was tasked with giving him some work to do, so he wrestled.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's all coming together now.
Yeah, so it's not awful in a way. Like, I don't remember this angle, and I was watching at the time, but doing my research, I'm like, oh, okay. So when he come in, he was a monster face, sort of squashing opponents quickly, then shared his dinner of live worms with them. So Boogeyman was eating worms and
It's
yeah,
different.
it's pretty bad, pretty gross.
You're hard,
So
please.
Sorry?
You're hard, please.
So then we go to Gillian Hall, who is another wrestler they had in OVW.
That's right. Yeah.
So she was brought up to the main roster as sort of something of a manager and like a fixer type character, like she was fixing problems. She also had a big growth on her face for some reason.
Yeah, what the hell was that about?
I'm not too sure. They said like a birthmark or something. Someone's idea of a rib, I think.
Was Russo in the company then? Or?
I don't think so. No,
Can't blame him for that one.
no, he wasn't the only one in that company that's had bad ideas. But yeah, the angle was brought to an end when Boogeyman ate the growth off her face.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it was fucked.
Yeah, we apologise for anyone that was trying to eat dinner or something. Oh, dear.
Yeah, no, and people remember this fondly. Like,
What?
yeah,
well, I can understand people remembering it, but I wouldn't say fondly is the right word for it.
go download some 80s.
Oh, I don't want to.
Or Japan or something, and like,
Oh.
yeah, these people who, this is no, fuck off. It's not wrestling. It's bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Boogeyman feuded with Finlay.
Sorry, I thought you were saying to download that clip.
No.
Do you download some Japan stuff?
Yeah, download something to cleanse the palate and show you what actual
Cleanse the
sport's
palate.
supposed
Yes.
to be.
Okay. Yeah. No worries. Yeah. No, that's all right.
Yeah, so Boogeyman feuded with Finlay, who ended up giving him his first loss after the interference of Hornswoggle.
Another great gimmick.
He played it well, at least.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
So Boogeyman brought in his own midget to even the odds. Little Boogeyman. Creative name.
Right.
Okay. He was an actor, not anyone with wrestling history.
Oh, okay.
Then Mark Henry squashed him and ended his run.
Oh.
Boogeyman, like the big one, not the small one.
Oh, right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
I thought it was WrestleMania 3 with King Kong Bundy all over again.
No. So at least they managed to end it and give someone at the same time.
At least they finished him off.
But he come back.
Oh.
He went to the WWE incarnation of ECW, and I'm very sorry to the 8 people that watched that show. I'm not covering this time. He was released in 2009 and was very injury prone over his run there.
Yeah.
But yeah, still remembered fondly. Was on a Legends contract and still makes appearances from time to time. So yeah, not my cup of tea, that's for sure.
I'm shocked to hear that. First of all, second of all, in all fairness, yeah, good on him. I mean, you know, he made something of it.
He did well with what he was given. I'll give him that.
Yeah. But I do remember one little thing where I guess it was when they were doing the angle where Donald Trump came in to do the whole Battle of the Billionaire deal. I'm assuming. And I just remember the part where it's Donald Trump sitting on a couch in the locker room or backstage or whatever, and he's just sitting there, and then you slowly see the Boogeyman start to appear up the back of the couch, and he does the whole, Boogeyman, I'm coming to get you or whatever, and Trump just totally kayfabes it. That's probably the one time I found Trump entertaining. But yeah. That's literally the best thing that I can say about the Boogeyman's run. I just love the way Donald Trump just totally kayfabed him. So yeah. Anyway, moving right along.
Moving along. Yes. So the dungeon of Doom.
So now, if you recall, if you're still listening, folks, that that joke's starting to come into effect now because
Who listens to half a podcast?
Sorry. Well, I don't know. Maybe they had better things to do. They listened to enough and thought, oh, I'm going to go do something else. This has gone on for too long.
Maybe
I
they're
don't
just
know.
hanging out for that Boogeyman segment.
yes. I hope they discuss the Boogeyman's run. Yeah. So yeah, look, I don't know. I mean, I didn't mind the Dungeon of Doom after when things got a little more serious, which I'm probably getting ahead of myself. But yeah, the Dungeon of Doom, a group that was pretty much put together for the benefit of Hulk Hogan. And I guess it was the way Kevin Sullivan explained it was, and I can understand this, where Hogan had been in the WWF for so long, he'd been their top guy for so long, he was the guy that took them through the big national expansion and all that sort of thing, and now he's on the outer with the WWF. So he's out of wrestling, he's doing his Thunder in Paradise, whatever he was doing, and he gets approached by WCW, and they say, we're going to pay you a shitload of money, and we're also going to give you complete creative control. And I think that meant a lot for Hogan. And the fact that they wanted to appease him and say, look, you can trust us, we're going to bring you in, you're going to get creative control anyway, but look, let's just feed you a bunch of guys. You're going to be the big hero and destroy the monsters and the demons and whatever else. So I think that's essentially the whole concept of the Dungeon of Doom, was for the benefit of Hulk Hogan coming in. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that all makes sense. Yeah, I guess it was really one of his earlier angles. I mean, he started off with Flair, didn't he?
Yeah. So his first match in WCW was beating Flair for the title. That was at Bash at the Beach 94, I want to say.
94, yeah.
Yeah, 94, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess obviously they wanted to get that match out of the way as quickly as possible. But, yeah, I didn't think it was that close to debut that he started it. But I guess it did run for a while, didn't it?
I think a lot sort of happened all in one hit, because I know that Hogan started feuding with Vader, and Vader became a member of the Dungeon of Doom, very briefly. I think it may not have been started right when Hogan debuted, but it wasn't that long after. So, Hogan was doing the stuff with Flair first, and then it kind of then led into working with Sullivan.
And of course, Kevin Sullivan, no stranger to like creating groups and sort of having, I guess, weird guys around him and doing weird things.
Yeah, and I guess for those who watched him in Florida when he was coming out with the snake, and he had, Luna, and he had, what was Woman? Was she Fallen Angel? I think her name.
That's
was
the one. Yeah, I was thinking Angel. Yeah.
Yeah. And the Lock, and and he had like the purple haze and all that. That was a bit demented, but this is like a cartoon version of that, basically. Was the Dungeon of Doom, and quite an interesting cast of characters.
Oh yeah.
So you had, well, for starters, I mean, the dungeon was an extension of the Three Faces of Fear. So this was Kevin Sullivan, the Butcher, and Avalanche. So when Hogan first came into WCW, he had Jimmy Hart and he had Ed Leslie, who I think they called him Brother Brutai, I believe.
He had so many names.
I think he had a couple of names even before he joined the dungeon or turned heel or whatever. Yeah, they did an angle where Kevin Sullivan got to Ed Leslie and convinced him to turn on Hulk Hogan. So he became the Butcher. He butchered the friendship. Because they
butchered a lot of things in his career.
Well, that's true. They couldn't call him the Barber, so he went with another profession. They brought in our good friend John Tenter. He was not the Earthquake, he was Avalanche. So the three phases of Fear, they feuded with Hogan, who then, he teamed up with Sting, and then Randy Savage came in. So it was the three of them, and also Dave Sullivan as well. But that's a whole other story. But
was he Dave at the time, or was he under a different character?
he was the Equalizer.
That's
at
right.
One time.
Yeah.
And then they made him not Dave, but Evad Sullivan, who was like the backwards, simple brother of Kevin Sullivan.
Is he Executioner at any point? Or am I thinking of someone else?
I don't know. But basically, Kevin Sullivan turned on Dave Sullivan because he revealed that he was a big Hulkamaniac. So he teamed with Hogan, Savage, and Sting on different occasions.
He was a big boy.
Sorry?
He was a big boy.
Yeah, well, I've seen him as the Equalizer. He was actually a pretty mean bastard, but yeah, I guess money does things to you, and yeah, you're willing to be a buffoon for the money. But yeah, so they got sick of losing to Hogan and Co. So Sullivan turned on the Butcher and Avalanche and beat them up, and then that led to the Dungeon of Doom, and they became the first members. You had Ed Leslie then became the Zodiac. Avalanche became the Shark. The Kamala came into it. They had Ming, and then the Barbarian came in later. Who else was in there? Loch Ness, for very briefly.
Very briefly, yeah.
Very briefly. The Giant before that was like the big major feud that Hogan had with the Dungeon was him and the Giant. But yeah, it was one thing after another. It was a very silly stable. That was mostly, as I said, for the benefit of Hogan. And then when Hogan turned heel and joined the NWO, that's when the Dungeon kind of got good. I actually didn't mind it then.
It wasn't good when they had the Yeti.
Oh, the Yeti, of course. Well, we're forgetting about Halloween Havoc '95, aren't we? And this is the thing that like Halloween Havoc. I mean, we talk about '89, where you had that awesome main event, Flair and Sting against Funk and Muda. On paper, that looks great, and it's going to be in a steel cage. Oh, what a barn burner that's going to be! Oh no. It's going to be in a Thunderdome, and we're going to have all these crappy decorations and stuff just slung on it, and all this other bullshit. And I mean, Halloween Havoc, they always had to do something really stupid in the main events, at least during that period of time. It got a little more serious as time went on. But yeah, Halloween Havoc '95, Hogan versus the Giant, and Hogan had started to go all funny as well. Because, we talk about Kane and the mental degradation that he had. So Hogan starts being affected by, Sullivan attacking him and the Dungeon of Doom attacking him all the time. So there was a period of time where he actually started wearing black.
Yeah, that was interesting.
Even before he's joined the NWO.
And he thought, I like this.
Yeah, he loved it, right?
Easy to keep clean.
And I think when he come out for the match with the Giant, he even had like the horns painted on his head. Like, how Kevin Sullivan would have like the face paint? I think he came out with some gimmick.
I didn't notice that.
And and of course, prior to that, you had the sumo monster truck match, which they filmed like 24 hours early on the top of Cobo Hall between, Hogan's monster truck and the Giant's monster truck. And then, Hogan beat him in that because he couldn't even lose in that. He couldn't even do the job in that. He had to beat Giant in that. and then they get into a tussle, and Giant falls off the edge of the Kobo Hall, and Hogan thinks, "Oh my God, I've killed the Giant," and he comes out for the match, and something really awful happened earlier. I'm so upset, and then the Giant comes out. And it's like, oh my God. But yeah, that was the debut of the Yeti, and I think that was the only thing he did. When he come out and did the whatever they did to Hogan,
Whatever that was.
whatever that was, and it was a pretty bad night because I think Luger come out as well, and like racked Hogan, and Jimmy Hart turned on him as well. It was like, it was a terrible night for Hogan, and then got molested by the Giant and the Yeti, and I think that was like the one and only appearance of the Yeti. Because I can imagine, like, trying to put on all the rapping and all that shit. Like, that's not something you could do, like, every week, surely.
He did briefly come back a little bit later with, like, martial arts, Mortal Kombat type gear.
That was that Super Giant Ninja or something?
I think he might have still been using the Yeti.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. He was still the Yeti, but that's right. He was in the ninja costume. And then they changed the name to like Super Giant Ninja or Giant Ninja or whatever the fuck it was. I'm pretty sure that was
come back as Big Ron Studd a bit later.
That's right. Yeah, Ron Studd, and where the fuck was I going with all this? The Dungeon of Doom. Yeah. So you can't have a Halloween episode without talking about them. But I feel like it did get better. Like when things got a little more serious. I remember Chris Benoit having 2 great pay-per-view matches in a row with Ming. And his matches with Kevin Sullivan were pretty amazing.
When they were, feuding with the Horsemen,
Yeah. So, but what other thoughts do you have on the Dungeon of Doom?
Yeah, I thought it was a bit silly a lot at the start. As you mentioned, they got a lot better once they left Hogan alone. I'm just looking at the list of members here, and there's a couple that we glossed over. Some for the best. There's a Big Bubba was in there for a bit. He was all
that's right.
Yeah, Braun the Leprechaun for 20 minutes or so.
Yeah. That was Buddy Lee Parker.
Yeah. Old Z Gangster and Ultimate Solution.
You can't call them Dungeon members, surely.
But one in there that we probably should mention, the Master.
Yeah. I was just going to say, but I thought I'll let you take the lead on this. I've talked enough.
The higher power calling the shots didn't do a great deal. I don't know if he ever appeared outside of video either.
No, I think they just did those skits and that was it. I don't think he ever made like another appearance.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool just based on who he was.
Yeah.
King Curtis Ikea.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And then his son started later.
Well, booked as his son.
Oh no.
His kayfabe relative.
So all this time I thought, okay, well, whose son was he then?
His parents?
Okay, so I thought that was his son. Okay.
No, he just used the name. But just for the sake of posterity, I will double check.
Oh, people don't care.
I care.
All right. Okay. All right. But
okay. So, he was given the name. So Mike Hayner was given the name Ikea by Kevin Sullivan, who was a good friend of King Curtis.
Right.
Because he was impressed by his professionalism, overall attitude, and respect for the business.
Oh, that's nice.
According to Wikipedia.
Okay. And that makes sense then if Sullivan was such good friends with King
Yeah.
Curtis that they sort of brought him in for a bit of a payday.
Yeah. So yeah, that's us.
Whew.
That's we got
Boy.
through it.
It was a journey, but we got there.
I was scared.
I got a bit freaked out when we started talking about the Boogeyman and his worms, but we we soldiered on.
We did. So yeah, time for the obligatory little bit of housekeeping, and we have mentioned on and off over the last 14 episodes about setting up a PayPal or a Patreon or something, giving a way for you fine people to sort of contribute to the show in a financial sense. And I'm happy to say that we now have the ability to receive your money.
That's a great. Yeah, folks, come on, line up.
So I will preface this
Oh, dear.
with my thoughts on the internet in general.
Oh God, here we go.
Here we go.
How
So
long have we been going for? You do
how long have
realise
we
that we might not have enough time for your dissertation.
So in short, we aren't doing this as a money-making exercise. I have a very sort of free view of the internet and content, but I do also believe in having the ability to contribute to things that you find entertaining or that you get value out of. So it's not so much that we're walking around with the hat out, but if you do find value in what we're giving you, we are giving you an avenue to express that.
We need petrol money for the roadshow.
There we go.
That's essentially what we do.
In a nutshell. So if you head over to our website, thewrestlingroadshow.com, have a look at the menu bar there, and at the end you'll see a lovely button that says donate. Click that, follow the prompts, and we appreciate it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's not, it's not something we want to, force down people's throats or anything. But hey, it's entirely up to you, and we'll keep doing this show, regardless. So doesn't matter.
And we have been busy this week. Not only is that launched, but we now have the Wrestling Roadshow podcast YouTube channel.
Wow. Okay, I didn't know we were going to bring that up this episode.
So at the moment, it's slowly being populated with a back catalogue. 3 episodes on there at the moment. That will grow, of course. You might be listening to this on YouTube. Hey, thanks. So head on over, like, subscribe. The shows will go up there. They'll also continue to go up via every other service, including the one that you are probably listening to this on, if not YouTube. The versions that aren't YouTube will have music intact. This will be removed for YouTube due to their policies and algorithms that do things with their policies. So head on over, like, subscribe, do all the YouTube things, and we'll throw up some shorts and some. I don't want to use the word exclusive, but yeah, we'll throw up some short form content on the YouTube to make it worth your while at some point.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, sounds good.
Then, of course, we have the website, thewrestlingroadshow.com, which statistics say you are listening to this podcast on that website. So click around, check some things out. Of course, we got the weekly music. This week was Heads Will Roll by Yeah Yeah Yeahs. Jamie Hayter's old theme music. We got profiles. We got history. We got all sorts, constantly being updated. So, yep, keep an eye on that. And of course, that's where the podcasts will get mentioned if you're not subscribed through a podcasting service. And let us know if you've got any thoughts, comments, suggestions. Drop us a line, podcast@thewrestlingroadshow.com.
That's right. Yes, do that. I've got nothing else to say other than thank you very much for continuing to join us on this wonderful trip.
And we will catch you down the road.